So other than that, from a tech perspective, I don't think I wanted to cover anything else. Let's have Chris. So Chris has some things to share. We have Chris Diggity with us. He's a longtime contributor to the Mochimo core team. He has created many tools and apparati that have been of extreme use to the entire community, and he has some new things to share with us. Chris, are you still here?
Yeah, definitely. So this block explorer has been a little while in the making. There was a few other things I had to create beforehand, but we'll go through that in a bit. At the moment, it's mostly functionally okay. I would like to add some styling later on, some better styling to some of the detailed pages, but we'll get there. It's this new block explorer. It's got quick way to view recent blocks, paginated, and the recent transactions on the network, but also allows you to search for blocks. So it's kind of handy for this reason. Search this specific block. Comes up with 2, and this one here is actually a pseudo block that's been minted. So the actual Mojimap backend can follow the different chains that are taken and still record the blocks. And so if in any case you have a missing transaction, you can actually still find that transaction on a missing block. You can also look at the block details here, center amount for blocks, block size, and your block transactions paginated as well, and even look in depth at the transaction itself. The one I worked on the most was the tag and address search functionality, so you can actually search a partial tag. We're just looking at the bounty address here, and it'll find your tag and its latest WATS address that's attached to it, give you available balance, and we have by a clever design from Flying W, a ledger history. So it's not completely loaded in yet, but it will record your ledger history and the deltas between the delta changes between Neogenesis blocks. So you can sort of quickly see what your balance has been doing over the different blocks. But also you can inspect further. You can inspect what transactions happened in that during that aeon of blocks. And you've also got your traditional transaction history search as well. So if you just have a transaction ID, simply search that, comes up as a result, have your transaction, and you find out where that comes from. So pretty basic functionality.
Well, but for those of the watching and listening live, the existing Mochimo Block Explorer is something that we built out just to provide basic functionality, and it worked okay at first, but the scale of the full stack that we built behind it, as the number of blocks and transactions grew, it really just couldn't keep up, and so we had to strip out functionality just to make sure that we could have the kind of basic lookup that people were expecting. And so this Block Explorer hosted on Mochimap by Chris represents just a massive leap forward in effectiveness, and one of the reasons why we didn't onboard additional exchanges is because one of the features we had to disable just because of the back-end loading time for the system that we had originally built was TXID lookup, and we had exchanges saying I can't look up transactions by TXID on the Block Explorer, And I'm telling them, well, you can use the command line, and they really weren't having it. They wanted there to be an available. They can have their support personnel key a TXID into and get an answer if there was a question about the status of tokens. So that was another reason why we were kind of holding off. So this block explorer is just beautiful, high speed, and effective in ways that our existing block explorer, which while quite nice to look at, lacks functionality because we had to strip it out to get it to continue to work once we started to exceed about 100,000 blocks. It really started to break around blocks just because of the sheer amount of data I had to work through. And because of the way that we had built it, I'm not a full stack developer. I'm a C coder. So we really needed somebody brilliant like Chris to come along and envision a different way of doing that could scale. I'm so proud of what he's accomplished, and it means a lot to us as a community to be able to have this kind of interface. So I'll let you get back to it, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all I had to show for the Block Explorer.
Okay.
But what actually is powering this Block Explorer is a open public API that I first created before creating the Block Explorer. And I sort of set up a README page here this is probably more useful for people developing third-party integrations like exchanges. Perhaps they want to check transactions without actually going to a website. You can definitely go that here. A lot of stuff's detailed here. But for example, if you wanted to check a transaction, you could search, or you could search for the transaction directly just by going to api.mochimap subdomain, and that'll bring up some JSON data very easily, friendly to use. But this thing is pretty powerful. You can search. Well, the basic transaction search just brings up the latest transactions that have occurred on the network, and it's 300 milliseconds on the server. It's pretty fast. There is some speed ups I can do later on, but yeah, that's sort of later functionality for people just wanting to play around and do random stuff like find transactions where its send total is greater than 1,000 MCM. You'd definitely do that with these modifiers that I've added to the parameter searches, and bring up different results. And all the results are paginated. Sorry?
Which repository is this?
So this will be a repository on my GitHub. Pretty sure if you just Google Chris Diggity GitHub, it comes up here, and Mochimap API, open source API. So I'm not sure if the Mochimap API is indexed in search engines just yet, but hopefully it will be.
To be clear, this API is the entirety of the backend for the Block Explorer, meaning.
This powers the Block Explorer. Someone else could make another Block Explorer just by using this backend. Backend is powered by 3 different servers in 3 different regions. You can use these region domains individually if you wish, but the api.mochimap.com will redirect you to the closest one anyway. So, I'm just going to be building on this as I build more things. If I find I need more functionality, more details. So, for example, just recently someone wanted some more details about network statistics. We can actually search stats of the blockchain at a certain block, or the latest block, which is just nothing there, and it'll bring up things like your supply, hash rate average over time, block average, transaction fees and rewards for that block, and all sorts of other nifty information that some people find useful, especially for making graphs, this one. But yeah, sure. I'll definitely be adding to that. And yeah, well, I mean, the step before this was the actual the API is powered by the Node.js module that I've created, which directly integrates with the network itself. It's basically just a big port of all the backend C functionality ported to JavaScript, and yeah, some documentation here for people that are really interested in using that. But yeah, definitely been doing a lot of things, and unfortunately there was those 3 steps. I had to create the module itself before I could then create the API, before I could then make the Explorer. But I think in the long run, people are going to be able to use these things to create even greater things. So
That's wonderful, Chris. Show them the existing Mochimo. This is one of the first things that Chris did for us as a community, and it gives you a live view of the network. At least all of the full nodes run exclusive of nodes that might be hiding behind other nodes. But you can see right now that there are 53 full nodes on the network. And if you click on any one of them, you can see how they're connected to the rest of the network from a propagation perspective. So it's really quite amazing. Sometimes I just leave it up so I can see the network, and you'll see the colors change as a new block is propagated. You can actually see in real time if you go to mochimap.net when a block is solved and how that block solve propagates through the network as each one of the nodes that's being pulled here in real time updates its current block height. It's quite amazing. Sometimes I'd literally just leave it there. And there's also, I think, a heat map for the world so you can see where nodes are. Yes. This is just really brilliant work, Chris, and I'm so appreciative to having a look at it.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty keen to migrate this to the new website on mochimap.com, but also upgrade it. I'm looking at using WebGL's 3D functionality to give it a little bit more depth, have it look a bit nicer. So I'll be playing with that next. I had hoped to get it done by the birthday, but yeah, definitely a lot of things going on.
What you've done already is fantastic. I think that was it. Were there any other things that you wanted to share?
No, I think that's all I feel like sharing.
Well, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing here. You've added depth to the way that people interact with the project in a way that I could never do. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.